As I said in the beginning, the introduction to the developmental movement patterns, I'm not going to give a whole lot of coaching on crawling unless you're still struggling with it after several passes. When I coach crawling, I'm not just going to coach you how to crawl forward, I'm going to coach you how to crawl forward, backward, and side to side. And that, I find, helps people coordinate the effort between from side to side and use that cross-body pattern that naturally comes with crawling. If you didn't crawl as a baby, you're probably going to be fine. I mean, ultimately, if you can just simply learn how to do it when you're playing as a child, then at least you got that pattern, that cross-body pattern somewhere. You probably got it from articulation, like we did the dead bug. You probably got it from rolling over. You probably still got some of that cross-body stimulation. So it's not that big a deal. People tend to make a big deal out of not crawling as a baby. As long as you figured out how to do it during play when you were a child, then we're fine. You can go from rolling to standing and be just fine. You don't have to go through crawling as a developmental stage, but we're going to practice it anyway, as though we were playing as children. So I'm going to be in a 6-point position. My hands, my knees, my toes are all on the floor. I'm going to look slightly forward, and I'm going to crawl forward. Now, I'm not going to think about very much, but as your coach, if I see your spine going all over the place, so if there's a lot of rocking from side to side going on as you crawl, I'm going to pop a little something onto the small of your back so that as you crawl along, you're not wobbling from side to side. I want to see your spine stay pretty neutral and pretty still as you crawl forward, backward, and then side to side as well. We can progress this to what's called a bear crawl. A 4-point crawl would be another name for it, where instead of crawling with the knees, hands, and toes all on the ground, the knees are just a little bit up. But you better have that 6-point crawl on lockdown before we progress you to this point. So these developmental movement patterns, they're meant to be performed in a relatively stress-free way. Once we lift the knees in our crawl, we're asking the body to create a lot of tension, especially if, like me, you're a heavier adult. There's a lot of pressure down on the wrists, a lot of pressure down on the toes. Our trunk is having to do a lot of stability work once we pick those knees up. I'm going to start using some strategies that I want to stay away from when I'm doing these developmental movement patterns. I want these movements to happen in a relaxed way. I don't want you to have to think about getting tight during these movements. The bear crawl, you have to get a little bit tight. You have to create some tension in order to practice it. So it's more likely to find its way into your routine, not during the developmental movement pattern warm-up, but as like an alternate exercise to the Turkish get-up or an alternate exercise to the push-up or something of that nature. That's where the bear crawl comes in handy.